Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome. I'm Jennifer Chen, Director of the ACC Foundation. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, highlighting one of our favorite partner organizations, Street Law. We know that to continue to diversify the legal profession and increase the number of people of color, LGBTQ, and lawyers with disabilities, we have to have a strong pipeline, one that begins far beyond or far before law school. So our friends at Street Law have been focused on this for quite some time with their Legal Diversity Pipeline Program, which is a program that the ACC Foundation and many ACC chapters are proud supporter of. I'm happy to welcome Ashok Regmi, Executive Director of Street Law, to tell you more about their programs and introduce our panel. Ashok.
Thank you, Jen, and good morning, all of you. First of all, thank you to the ACC Foundation for organizing this important discussion about diversifying the legal profession through early exposure programs. We have been fortunate to be associated with ACC for the last 20 years. In fact, this year we're celebrating our 20th year when our first Legal Diversity Pipeline program started with McDonald's. Since then, our program has been adapted and replicated in about 70 plus sites across the nation. And many of these sites are in partnership with ACC chapters. And I've had the pleasure to connect with ACC Foundation colleagues recently, and I was humbled as an executive director of Street Law to see the excitement in their faces. And when we had a conversation, what a great partnership this is between ACC and Street Law. For those of you who are attending the session this morning and who may not know about Street Law, we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, which I say leverages the power of education, both formal and non-formal, for empowerment and justice. Our work expands in all 50 states in the United States, and we have also worked in more than 45 countries around the world to advance equity, justice, build civic agency, and expand rule of law. We work in partnership with corporations, schools, government agencies, and community organizations to decrease what I like to call hope gap that exists in our society today. Legal Diversity Pipeline Program is a signature program of ours, and the premise, as Jen mentioned earlier, the premise of this program is based on the fact that the decision to go into legal field, particularly among communities of color, start early, mostly in high schools. And the period to ensure that from high schools till they land up a job in the legal field, it's a pretty long period. And there are a lot of organizations who are doing amazing work in different stages of this pipeline. Street Law's work is mostly focused in the early exposure during high schools, which I believe is the most important step to ensure that they're heading in the right direction. I was also excited to see the enthusiasm among the lawyers and the paralegals who are engaged in our program. And when I look at this program, I truly believe that the program is not just about equipping young people, there's a mutual learning going on, there's a mutual understanding going on, and there's a sense of empathy that you can understand somebody else's perspective from their shoes. So I'm very excited about this program, and Street Law is in a process of defining where the organization would go by 2030, what we are calling Vision 2030 framework. And we are going to double down on this important work. And for folks who are on the call this morning, if you would like to start a partnership with Street Law, please make sure you connect with us. But at this point, I'm sure you're waiting to hear from folks who are on the ground who are making this happen. So without any further ado, let me introduce Joy Dingle, who is the Director of Legal Diversity Programs at Street Law, who will then contextualize the panel for this morning and introduce our other panelists. So thank you so much for attending this session, and thank you to the ACC Foundation for organizing this event. Much appreciated. Joy?
Thank you, Ashok, and good morning to our audience. As Ashok mentioned, we are very happy to be here today to have this conversation with two colleagues who are actively involved in implementing the program. I'm pleased to introduce to you Ms. Yolanda Wallace, Program Director at the PACE Center for Girls, and Mark Osborne, the Assistant General Counsel at Grow Financial Credit Union. Working together, these two co-leaders, along with exceptional teams from both organizations, produced a high-quality academic event for the young people who participate in our programs. And soon we will be joining them in conversation. There may be some in the audience who are not quite as familiar with how our program is structured. And so I'm going to give you a brief overview of that, and then we will go right into the conversation with Mark and Yolanda. So as Ashok mentioned, the Legal Diversity Pipeline Program works with young people from across the United States with the help of partners from the legal profession. You'll see here, pictured off to the side there, you'll see Yolanda with a small group of some of the young women who participated in this summer's program, and she'll have an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about them. You've already heard a little bit about our mission as an organization. We are here to advance justice through classroom and community programs. And the most important part of what we do, at least from the perspective of a director, is to create positive change for our participants so that they feel empowered to go out and make positive changes for themselves and others. We also mentioned briefly that we are celebrating 20 years of partnership with the Association of Corporate Counsel. And our newest partner is the Tampa Bay chapter. And Mark will share with you how they came about selecting to participate in street law, and he'll tell you a little bit more about how he and his teammates worked together with the PACE Center. In addition to McDonald's, our first partner, here is a small sampling of some of the corporate partners who are part of our program. And some of our corporate partners also work with law firms. It'll be no surprise to many of you in the audience that one of the issues in terms of diversifying the legal profession is that people of color represent over 30% of the US population, yet fewer than 15% of all lawyers are people of color. One thing that highlights the importance of getting young people involved early in the effort to diversify the profession was pointed out by the Before the JD study, which was conducted by the American Association of Law Schools, Gallup, and many others from the legal community. And what they found was something that Ashok mentioned during his opening remarks, is that many students, especially those from underrepresented groups, make the decision to attend law school earlier than college. In fact, for some students, they make that decision as early as high school and sometimes earlier, especially Black students. The Legal Diversity Pipeline Program is structured in a way that we are able to put together several components based upon research to reach and engage young people through teaching them about careers in the law, but also instilling in them the belief that they can be successful in the law. And our goal always is to create positive relationships between those young people and leaders in the legal community. And so in a moment, we'll talk about how ACC in Tampa Bay and PACE Center were able to achieve this. Here's a great example of one of the slides that Mark used during a presentation to the young people participating in the program. He was there basically showing their name in lights and showing them how how important they are. Our most successful programs leave students believing, I can. They leave believing that they are an integral part of the success of the future of the profession, and that then now they have the skills, the ability, and the partnership and support to help them reach their goals. Many are curious about the demographics of the students we serve. Approximately 40% of the students self-identify as Hispanic, Latino, or Latinx. about another 40% identify as Black or African American. And the fastest growing group that are represented in the students that we reach identify as Asian American or Pacific Islander. The impact we have on students in recent years is that we've reached approximately 4,600 students with the help of more than 1,700 volunteers across more than 70 corporate sites. And data from feedback forms that we collect from students after their experience show that at least 70% of them are more interested in legal careers after participating in the program. As Ashok mentioned, we would love for you to keep in touch with us. Our contact information is here, and ACC will provide these slides to those of you who are joining today's call and those who have registered. So we hope that if you have any questions that we're not able to answer today, that you will feel free to get in touch with us. We would love to continue our conversation with you. And those slides have been added for your convenience here as well. So now we are on to the good part. I am really excited to be able to talk with our two co-leaders of the experience that we had this June about how they got involved and what they see as some of the positive aspects of the program. So again, I'd like to welcome both Mark and Yolanda, and I would like to start by asking each of you, why did your organization decide that early exposure and access to the legal profession was important to its mission? Mark, I would like to start with you and then move on to Yolanda.
Thank you, Joy. So I'm a board member of ACC Tampa Bay, and our chapter was really looking for ways to increase the scale and impact of our community outreach and diversity initiatives. Over the past few years, we've made significant strides in diversifying the makeup of our board of directors, and through the successful launch of our women's group that brought together like-minded in-house counsel in the Tampa Bay region. But we wanted to do more. Recognizing, as Joy has spoken about in the last few slides, that the makeup of the legal profession is not as diverse as the community in which we live and work, we look for resources that would help drive the conversation of diversifying the legal profession and also giving individuals of high school age an opportunity to get exposure to a career in law. We quickly looked at resources after speaking with ACC Central Florida that has a street law program, ACC Wisconsin, which has a unique program in which they actually partner with a community organization that ultimately led to the development with case centers for girls, as well as just conversations with Joy and seeing the joy and excitement in which she talks about the program. So that's really how we got, we interacted and ultimately led to the development of the street law program.
Thank you, Mark. And the same question for you, Yolanda. Why is it that the PACE Center got involved, and how does this connect to your mission?
Sure. I'll first start with our PACE mission, which is to provide our girls and young women with an opportunity for a better future through education, counseling, training, and advocacy. We serve a very marginalized community with limited access to different careers and opportunities. And so recognizing our need to bridge the gap, in 2015, we had developed a PACEworks curriculum, which focuses on our career and vocational development. And so through our PACEworks program, we expose our girls to different career opportunities as well as secondary education. When we were provided with an opportunity to partner with ACC, we were excited because it served as an additional layer of exposure to our girls into the legal system or profession.
Thank you. And Yolanda, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask the next question of you first and then go to Mark. So what are some of the skills and experiences you wanted the young people to come away with after participating in the program?
Sure. So when we partnered with ACC Street Law, we thought that it was a wonderful way to connect our girls with attorneys, as most of our girls have had negative experiences within the legal system. And so through partnership, it allowed for them to not only have a positive interaction, to walk away with a positive interaction, but to build skills through communication, advocacy, and public speaking. A lot of our girls are very introverted, so it's really difficult for them to speak in public. So this allowed for them to develop those new skill sets. PACE is very intentional on identifying leadership characteristics. And so ACC offered a platform for our girls to further develop their skill sets through partnership and collaboration.
Mhm. Yeah, and did it very well. Thanks, Yolanda.
It did very well.
And Mark, what would you add to that? What were some of the skills and experiences you all were hoping the students would come away with?
Absolutely. And I think it was a wonderful partnership. We really saw the girls grow throughout the entire program, and we loved that. Really what we were seeking at the outset was really to provide a forum in which the girls would have both a supportive and encouraging opportunity to engage, to stretch their minds, to get exposure to some concepts of law that interact with them on a daily basis. I think during the course of the program, a lot of the young women came to learn of how the law, contracts, and negotiation really impact every single component of what they do throughout the course of the day. Whether it was just negotiating how much allowance you may have, or if it's anything along the lines of a contract, maybe you're babysitting or somewhere along those lines. In addition, we really wanted to provide the girls an opportunity to see what we as in-house counsel do, which is different than what they necessarily may see on TV or may have exposure to in a different realm. But I think the most important thing that I would stress is really we wanted to provide a forum in which these girls had an opportunity to talk about their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Really, this program should start with the girls and should end with the girls or the youngsters as a whole. It's really all about them.
Thanks so much, Mark. It was an absolute thrill to see how well the young women progressed through this program, how excited and enthusiastic they were in the beginning. And then as the weeks moved on, just how they really started to take on the role. So by the time students were finishing this experience, they moved from, like you said, exploring some of the basic concepts of contract law and understanding how it applies to them on a daily basis. And then they role played attorneys who were representing a celebrity musician. And then the others were representing the venue where the musician was to appear, and there was unfortunately a mishap. This is all a simulation, but there was a mishap, and the star was not able to perform as scheduled. And so the two sides worked out a positive resolution using all of the information, all the skills that they acquired. And as Yolanda mentioned, there were some students who were very shy in the beginning, and all of a sudden they are taking on these roles and advocating for their clients. So to see that transition was simply an encouraging thing, and it really goes to show how when we create a supportive learning environment, that all things are possible. So with that, I wanted to ask you about this. We made a joint decision, all of our organizations together, to focus on student strengths and to integrate culturally sensitive practices into the program. How did this impact the success of the program from your point of view? Let me start with you, Mark, and then we'll go to Yolanda.
Sure. So really, we wanted to start early on to meet really the students where they were, to ensure that we had the proper understandings of those basic foundations before we move forward. And I think this really aligns with the uniqueness of the street law curriculum, where they really use those building blocks for later success as you move along. So we took a lot of additional time up front to make sure that the concept, offer, consideration, acceptance were clear and readily understandable before moving forward. We also made sure that if any of the young women wish to be identified in a certain way, that we made that clear up front. I truly think when we took the time up front to make those connections, it really did pay those dividends down the road, as Joy explained. I think one of the most successful things towards the end of the program, with after the negotiation and the joy and excitement that we saw in each of the young women's faces. And then we got to the point of the career fair and the graduation ceremony, where we were able to have truly inspiring and uplifting remarks from Vita Richardson, President and CEO of ACC, as well as another street law champion. And my boss, Deidre White, who was a past chair of the Pace Hillsborough Board of Directors. After those remarks, we were then given the opportunity to have the volunteers and the young women getting breakout rooms and really just talk about their career aspirations and what their interests are and how we could help drive that forward. Each of the women were then given a number of bags containing swag that was provided on behalf of our ACC member organizations, as well as sponsors, to really appreciate and highlight all of the hard work and dedication that these young women put into the program, and also to appreciate what we see as the future success. I think you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, so Mark, one thing that stood out to me was that although the program actually took place online, because you were reaching students from multiple PACE centers, and of course the pandemic is ongoing, nonetheless, the volunteers and those that you mentioned came together in a way that recognized the students' achievements throughout the entire program. And you were a part of actually delivering some of the swag to the various centers and getting things into students' hands so they had a tangible reminder of their experience and another way to appreciate them. So you really went above and beyond, and a number of sites that have implemented the pipeline program, especially over this past year, have done much of the same, and it makes a huge difference for students. So Yolanda, I would love to talk to you about the perspective of the PACE Center. Why was it so important that we engaged in these practices to make sure that we were being culturally sensitive and celebrating the positive aspects of students?
Sure, and I'll start first with that our PACE Center is a strength-based organization. And so we're always intentional about drawing out the positive characteristics and skill sets from our girls rather than focusing on the deficits. And so we meet girls truly where they're at, as Mark mentioned, and as you mentioned, Joy. When ACC reached out to discuss identifying girls that would be interested in participating in the workshop, they were very intentional about how to work best with our girls. So starting from the very beginning, we collaborated with identifying girls' characteristics, who would be good for what group, who was more comfortable with public speaking, their abilities to work with others, as we did collaborate with 3 other PACE centers. And with public speaking and overall with girls' comfortability, I think it was really important, especially with Mark's team, that girls felt comfortable, because that really truly was going to speak to the success of the program. So they were all very sensitive to how our girls prefer to be identified. And I think that as a result of all of this partnership and the mixer that we threw and really talking about how to best work with our girls, it led to a very successful programming because it aligned with our girls, their capabilities and their capacities. I mean, truly, they were excited. In the beginning, they were a little hesitant. And then as the workshop progressed, they gained more confidence in their capabilities and their skill sets. They enjoyed the lunch. They enjoyed the swag that they received later on, and just connecting with the different centers as well as the attorneys.
Great, thank you. And so what advice would you offer similar organizations that want to launch early outreach initiatives around the law? Yolanda, I'll start with you.
Sure. Early exposure is critical. I mean, definitely key, especially for our girls. Exposure to positive experiences allows for the girls or students just to see the possibilities. It creates a bridge that begins to lessen the gaps, especially when it comes to access. And so the girls, I felt, really had a positive takeaway from the programming. And we're always thankful for the community partnerships that we have, especially with ACC Street Law. And the girls are really excited about future programming with them as well.
Yeah, we were thrilled to combine forces with the PACE Center. There has been increased interest in not only ACC chapters, but corporate legal departments and law firms in working with community-based organizations. So when you all said that you were very interested in partnering, it really meant a lot to us. And Mark, what advice would you give to similar organizations looking to do early outreach?
Sure, absolutely. So I have 5 main recommendations really for this. Really, first is really to start early. So all that additional planning that you do up front really does pay dividends. This is a program that you just can't, although street law gives you all the resources you need, it's not really plug and play. You need to make sure you have a plan to ensure its current and future success. Second, really use those resources. So whether it's reaching out to street law itself, whether it's other ACC chapters that have rolled out similar programs, or just reaching out to the foundation. All those resources are readily available and they all want to ensure the future success of your program. So don't hesitate to reach out to anybody. Third, I would say really engage your community membership as well as your sponsors. In our case, having those initial conversations with different members of our chapter led us to discuss different community organizations after we weren't able to do the standard plan, which is really working with a local high school. And I can honestly say I couldn't be more excited that we launched with Yolanda and PACE. It was an unbelievable partnership. In addition, I would say individuals are more than willing to participate during the program or just provide some type of support, whether it's financial or it's in the form of swag. The next point I would add is it's very important that you quickly identify who your community champion is going to be and to make those connections with the community organization. That kind of really goes hand in hand with the first point. And my final point is just that start small, but have a goal of where you'd like this program to begin in future years. So we were able to do a hybrid model where we just did one course module this time around with 3 different PACE centers involving 20 remarkable young women, but we have opportunities for this to grow even further in future years. We're looking to expand to additional PACE centers to have opportunities for our entire Tampa Bay region and also our membership that is throughout the entire region. So whether it's the form of different programs, whether it's in the form of additional resources for the community organization, in the form of mentoring opportunities, sponsorships, you name it. But don't be afraid to start small, get those initial wins, but keep in mind where this program can go because you can truly make a significant difference in the lives of these young women.
Thank you, Mark. It's really great to hear you talk about the careful planning and community involvement and the willingness to grow slowly so that the program is sustainable. That is music to our ears and certainly something that we encourage. And we look forward to talking with both you and Yolanda in the future as we see this program grow. So with that, I would invite any of you who are in the audience to add your questions to the chat, or if you would like, you are welcome to unmute. You could turn on your camera if you're feeling comfortable, and feel free to ask questions of Mark, Yolanda, Ashok, or me. So what I just did is something in street law we call wait time, just giving people an opportunity to think through before or while they formulate their questions. But there may not be any questions right now. So what I would encourage our audience to do is please think about whether this may be the type of partnership that is something that would be fruitful and something that aligns with your mission. We welcome any questions or comments you have in these next following days. Please do keep in touch with us. Again, we are grateful to not only ACC Tampa Bay and the PACE Center, but also to the ACC Foundation for this opportunity to connect with all of you.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Yolanda and Ashok, for providing such great information about the programs that you offer. And it's a wonderful opportunity to engage not only along with your other ACC members, but obviously with these amazing young, bright students who really are greatly impacted after going through these programs. And this is the pipeline that we are building. So I hope that everybody has an opportunity to participate in street law programs. We certainly encourage you to do so. And again, we'll help provide information on how your chapter or organization might be able to get involved in a street law project. So I guess that's it for now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.